there was a bunch of students playing pool, and I had like this I was like, allow me to tell you how all this works. It's like my like grandfather moment. And, there's a couple things.
Yeah.
One is be open to every conversation.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to approach anybody.
This is the Cinematography for Actors podcast.
More than a podcast, Cinematography for Actors is a vibrant community devoted to bridging the gap between talent and crew. Each week, our show offers transparent, insightful conversations with industry leaders. We unveil the magic behind the scenes, from candid discussions about unique filmmaking processes to in-depth technical exploration. Join us in unraveling the intricacies of filmmaking one episode at a time. It's more than just cameras and lenses. We aim to inspire, educate, and empower as we peel back the curtain on the art of effective storytelling. Now on to the episode.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinematography for Actors podcast. It is one of your hosts, Inde and Underhill, here on our couch at CFA Studio, joined by the wonderful Seth Emmons from Leitz, Director of Communications. Welcome. Hi.
Hello. It's great to be here.
How would you define what Camerimage Film Festival is? This is what we just returned from last week.
Yeah. So on paper, it's a film festival dedicated to the celebration of cinematography almost exclusively.
Mm-hmm.
There are some actors, some directors, people above the line that show up, but they are very few, and generally they take a back seat to the cinematographers on the projects. That being said, it's not like any other film festival that I've been to for a number of reasons, and not just because of the focus of it, but the accessibility of it for people to come and experience the screenings and the seminars and all the other things that go around it. It's one of the most open, acceptable, egalitarian kind of festivals that I've ever been to. And for me, someone who really kind of hates the like jockeying for position, trying to haggle for lines and things like that.
Yeah.
I love the low-keyness of it.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's really special about it is it puts A-list people, cinematographers in this case, on the same level as
there's
students.
no ego.
There's no ego.
Yeah.
And the people that come there that are, the marquee names understand this festival as an opportunity to give back to the community and to engage. So when students come up to, name your favorite cinematographer, they're usually happy to spend some time and answer a bunch of questions.
Yeah, totally. You notice that they have like entourages around them the whole time of students like just constantly questioning them about like the next thing, and they're just chilling, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like everyone's just chilling around the same bar or couch or vendor's booth, whatever it is.
Well,
yeah.
And that's the other thing is it's so relaxed and so well contained because it exists in this very small town in Poland, Torun, and there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
It's like you are all together. You are all going to the same clubs, the same restaurants, the same screenings, the same events.
Yeah.
It's not like, if you have a festival in LA or Paris or Toronto where people scatter at the end of the day. It's like, no, you all stay together.
Yeah, and a lot of those venues are only kept open for the festival. So one night I remember like it's 8 nights total that people were there. I think it's like a week-long festival. But how long were you there for?
I came in on Saturday and then I left Saturday morning. So I was there for a week.
Cool. Yeah, the whole shebang. It's interesting because I remember one night, it's in like a bigger town than it used to be because it used to be in Bydgoszcz, which felt smaller. And this one is more like a central hub for business. But the best part was I just walked around. I couldn't find Anna. My phone died. Anna's a fantastic DP from London. My phone died, and so all I did is I took a friend of mine, Eduardo, a friend of ours, and I just walked to every venue there was and walked through the entire venue, seeing different people I knew, and just went, have you seen Anna? Have you seen Anna? And did this across the entire town, 6 venues, and I finally found her. And it was just hilarious that you can do that, and it makes it feel like such a small world at the end of the day, and that's what I love so much.
Yeah, you never really get lost there.
No.
And even when you're walking down the street, like after a few days of being there, you start to see people that you met the night before or 2 nights before, and your community starts to build even within the festival.
Yeah. Now, I want to talk about first year you went 10 years ago. I'm 9. What was that like for you? How was it advertised? Who were you with?
So I was with Leitz at the time.
Cool.
So we were there to promote our lenses. We had a very small stand in the Opera Nova in Bydgoszcz at the time. And I had no idea what this experience was going to be like. No one had prepared me for it in any way. So I came in expecting a trade show,
Yeah.
which we do, tons of, and it's a very formal thing. You stand there with the product and you talk about it.
Yeah.
This is not what this is.
No.
This is a socializing, networking experience.
Yeah.
And once I saw drinks being poured at 3 p.m, beers being handed out,
Champagne built into the booths of certain vendors. Yeah.
you realize that it's on a different level,
Yeah.
and that it's really about just kind of going easy on all of that. So in that first year, I really got my feet under me, and I met who kind of became my first Camerimage family, the community that I think in a way, kind of like Burning Man, you find your tribe.
Right.
And I found my tribe, which just happens to be a bunch of British filmmakers.
Yeah.
That first year, and it's just grown and grown since then.
Now, for someone wanting to go to Camerimage, maybe they're not a DP, maybe they're a writer, director, actor. What is the draw, do you think? I think it's probably the no ego thing. I think it's everyone's on the same playing field and the workshops, and it's cheap, but what's your vibe?
It's all of those things.
Yeah.
I mean, it is extremely affordable.
Yeah.
It's not easy to get to. You're a couple hours generally from an airport.
Yeah. So it's for the diehards.
Right. And
Yeah.
that kind of weeds out the looky-loos and, the fair weather film fans. But once you get there, you can go to any seminar. You can go to any screening. You can go to almost any party if you just take the time to meet the people that are hosting it and spend some time and talk with them. It's all very accessible and available. And there's this spirit. There's not a spirit of gatekeeping like I experience at some festivals where it's we're going to keep you out and these people can come in. There are things where there's invitation-only events.
And private dinners and things like that.
Yeah, but I mean, you can get in eventually. You walk in with the right person. You sneak in through the back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you check the smoking area. Yeah,
Exactly.
It always works.
Yeah.
But the way I promote this event to my friends, and I've gotten, you met Haley last year, one of the co-founders of CFA, and she adored it. She's an actor, obviously. And the way I promote it to people is I'm kind of okay, your most expensive thing is going to be the flight. And that'll be anywhere from $500 to $800 return. And then your train ride, maybe. But then once you get there, it's $100 American for a pass for the entire week. You see as many films as you want.
Yep.
As many seminars as you want. And certain networking opportunities that are available to you. And through that, I'm not even including the exhibition hall, which is all of the vendor booths where you're represented as well, where you can actually have hands-on demos with every product that's available and get to know the reps for those companies that you bring back with you to LA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And most of the companies bring kind of a limited amount of gear, but the real value, as you said, is in the networking and building those relationships. And there's so many people that I've met through the festival who then are hey, can I borrow some lenses for this? Or I'd like to look a little more closely. Those business opportunities grow organically rather than being a direct sales thing. No one really goes there expecting that it's a sales event.
Right.
And there's no pressure in that way. So you can sit there on a booth and have a glass of wine with somebody from Sony or whoever or us and just chat and get to know people. Yeah.
Now, how did you guys decide how many people you're bringing, the events that you're doing from a vendor standpoint? Because you guys had two events that you did, two incredible events.
We had 2 parties and a seminar.
Yes.
Yeah, and plus our space in the exhibition hall. And usually we just have one party that we do with American Cinematographer magazine. This year we decided to do a second party, and we had the idea to do a seminar on optical design.
Oh my God, that was so cool. Yeah, tell us about this, because this is amazing.
So what we did is we brought a guy named Peter Carbe, who was the head of optical design at Leica Camera for almost 20 years, had been designing lenses for them for 30 years. And Leica Camera is a sister company to Leitz. So we have a lot of shared...
Which one's bigger?
Leica by a lot.
Cool.
By 2
wondering.
orders of magnitude.
I've never actually known that. Okay, go ahead, sorry.
The cinema side is pretty small.
Yeah.
But we brought him in to discuss optical design from a cinematography perspective and kind of give a primer on the technical aspects of it, and then talk about the creative aspects of how that can be used to create looks with different lens designs.
That's so cool. What was like the biggest takeaway for you? What were the questions? Because you're moderating it and participating.
Yeah.
So
I was not the smart one on the panel. I was the simple one.
You were the one that everyone wants to go up to and talk to after, and continued to do so, right?
Yeah, I mean, I did talk to a lot of people afterwards.
Yeah. What was like the biggest question around that seminar? Like, what did people ask?
So what I found surprising was the small number of people that had technical questions, because I went into it with a lot of fear of like, we were going into like talk about some technical issues. We got to keep it like accessible for the student level and also interesting for the higher end DPs that were in the room too. And I feel walked a pretty fine line of that kept everybody happy and engaged. The questions afterwards were really kind of specific on just different points of it. Like, can you go a little deeper on that? Not like I didn't understand it, but can you say a little more about that?
Like types of glass elements used or coatings, things like that?
We talked about coatings. We talked about aspheric polishing. We talked about, inner focus with like floating elements for a close focus.
Floating elements are always the craziest thing to me.
Yeah.
That's like a wild idea. Does having a floating element mean that your aperture will change?
No, not having a floating element means that your angle of view will change.
Got it.
Which is breathing. So a floating element is like step one to removing breathing.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then do you need more floating elements in order to reduce it even more, or?
The next big thing other than the floating element is to try to achieve telecentricity of the light coming out the back, meaning that it runs as perpendicular as possible to the sensor or the film plane.
Wow. And you can get all of this knowledge for as little as $100 for a whole Camerimage festival pass.
Right. There were some amazing seminars this time, as well as some amazing screenings.
Well, before, when we were doing audio levels for Jack, we were talking about you and Nar having some wine during a specific lecture. Can you talk about what that one was? Because that's pretty cool.
Yeah, Atlas hosted a anamorphic discussion, and they had Oren Sofer, Lena Sangren, and Chris Probst on. All three phenomenal cinematographers and also very well-spoken cinematographers. So the three of them had this hour-and-a-half long discussion, and Forrest Schultz from Atlas moderated it and did a phenomenal job, mostly just by like putting very light guardrails around what was a very animated, interesting conversation anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, our booth usually serves wine in the afternoon, and I had finished my presentation earlier and came out from it demanding a glass of wine.
Yes.
And so then when I went into the next one, one of my colleagues asked if I wanted to take a bottle. I was like, it's not a bad idea. So I took a bottle, a couple glasses, went into the seminar room. Nar was sitting there because he's working with Atlas, and I was like, hey man, you want to have some wine? And we sat in the front row through most of the seminar. Yeah. Enjoying some wine.
And it's not the drinking that like excites me. It's it's specifically like how casual but passionate people are about the art form, but still remain like friendly. Like, because living in Los Angeles, and a lot of our listeners are all over the place in different countries, and so we're very lucky to live in LA or New York or larger hubs of where film happens. But for those people that don't get access to screenings and events and seminars and hands-on demos all the time, this is kind of a festival where I treat it as, it's like a family vacation. You go and you have 7 days to catch up with everybody. And like, it's a hard catch up. And then you can do the rest of your year just kind of however you want, without the pressure of feeling like, oh, I need to have like 65 lunches. I have to meet with 65 different people. Oh, I can do that all during Camerimage and catch up with them on a personal level, and then figure out what I want to explore during this year and follow up on when I get back. And that's what I love.
Yeah, I think that's spot on.
Right?
Yeah.
From a vendor standpoint, when you guys are deciding, this is just out of interest for me, and I should preface, I guess, with you saying that like every night of the festival, there's a industry party, and
at least one, and they always start at 10 to 10:30 p.m. Are catered and then go into about like 3 or 4 a.m. But before that, there's always like a dinner or a like pre-party that's not an official festival party, but is run by different vendors and things. And then afterwards, there's a clubbing experience. I feel like I'm in Vegas talking like there's a clubbing experience with snow and everything and foam. But no, it's a festival club to party at. But so it starts like, I would wake up at
3 or 4 p.m. this year. No, 2 p.m. this year. And then you like get breakfast, go, and you start doing these parties. From a vendor standpoint, how are you determining to do your, like, this is the first year you did the second one in addition to ASC. Was it because you felt there was a need to just like connect with people from vendor standpoint, or what was it that kind of led you to do that?
So the one that we do with American Cinematographer is a really small boutique party.
Yeah.
And so what we wanted to do was offer another opportunity to kind of cast a bit of a broader net. And we saw last year there was a group that had a party earlier in the week, and we were like, it's not a bad idea. We could do another smaller but like a little bit bigger open party earlier in the week. And we just decided to go for it. I mean, like you said, the costs are really low there.
Yeah.
So marketing budget wise, it's not too bad to host 100, 150 people for a few hours.
And you were looking at different guest lists because you were probably doing it mostly off of like friends of Leitz Cine, but also who you were meeting at the booth, who you had interesting conversations with.
Yeah, there's always like, there's kind of like the always on list, you know?
Yeah.
You've got your whoever the DPs are that are there, the bigger ones, the jury members, the agents, some of those folks. And then there's always kind of just people that you scoop up during the days of the festival. You're like, you meet somebody and you're like, this person is really interesting, this AC who's working on this and this, and like, you should come to our party, give them a wristband. And so, yeah, there's always a little bit of that, like, flexible room.
Yeah, and it must feel good to be able to like give a new person at Camerimage or like festival goer student a wristband and being like, come to our party. Like, I remember that feeling when I was 17, going to Camerimage. So.
Super funny anecdote.
Yeah.
Last year, there was a young woman there who was like an aspiring DP, and met her. She was super curious, came by a lot, asked a lot of questions, saw her at every party. She was actually pretty well connected for being really young. And this year, one of my good friends since I was like in college, who's a filmmaker, came for his first time. And he said, I'm with my girlfriend. She's been to the festival before. And it was this girl.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I'm standing there like to meet them for dinner outside the restaurant.
Did they meet at Camerimage?
No, they met at another film festival.
Crazy.
Yeah. But she walked. So it like is this like small
Delete the
connection.
dating apps. Go to festivals.
That's right. Tell you what, if you want to meet people you share common interest with, go somewhere where you have your interest.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
But no, it was so funny because it was her first year last year.
Yeah.
And I felt like, I really gave this person like a lot of opportunity, like invite them to like our party. And like, it was kind of like one of those newbies. And then she comes back the next year leading her boyfriend, my good friend, to his first Camerimage as like a well-connected person.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the beauty of it, I think.
Yeah.
It's funny, like the dating thing. I would say that there have been marriages from Camerimage, Julie and Marcus.
Oh, yeah.
There have been relationships, me and an ex-boyfriend I will not name, but there are fully people who will like meet each other at Camerimage. You have like an intimate 7 days of just like getting to know them and their friends and like everyone, and then it kind of sticks with you, I think, afterwards. And so I think that's just so wonderful.
There is a bit of a glow to the whole experience.
Yeah,
like, it feels like you're in a bubble.
Yeah,
a really nice, warm, welcoming bubble.
Now, do you remember the first time meeting me?
I do.
What? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, go for it. I want to hear this.
So we were at the festival in Bydgoszcz.
Yeah.
And we had at our little stand, we had like chips and pretzels.
Yeah.
And you kept coming over from the stand you were working to steal.
You're right.
Your term,
yeah.
to steal our chips and pretzels, but then you would pay us back by bringing us champagne in the evenings as well from your stand.
You're reminding me. I didn't remember. I remember stealing things. I'm so glad I brought the champagne. Yeah, I had total access to that champagne. It was very unhealthy. And I remember meeting your entire team and just absolutely adoring you guys. And you always have fun little like pins. Like you have like if you were ever at a Leitz booth or with Leitz for some reason, there's every reason, but whatever, you can get like a little red pin, and it's very cute and very quaint. It's like a little button, but it's like the cool kids club to have one.
Yeah, they are never going to be out in a bowl for you like to grab.
So that was 9 years ago that we met, and I was doing that.
Yeah.
And then we've seen each other every year since, right?
I think so. I mean, the only year I missed was 2020. Since then, pretty much.
Oh my God. Now, okay, students, what are the biggest tips for like students or newer filmmakers, newcomers, if they don't have someone to lead them around? How do they get invites to things from a vendor standpoint?
Right. So there's a couple of things I would say for students. And I remember last year being at the Tutu bar, which is one of the more popular bars.
Yes.
And there was a bunch of students playing pool, and I had like this I was like, allow me to tell you how all this works. You know, it's like my like grandfather moment. And, you know, there's a couple things. One is be open to every conversation.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to approach anybody.
Okay, we are stoked to shout out our audio sponsor, Deity Microphones. Their S-Mic 2 Pro shotgun mics have impeccable sound clarity, directionality, headphone monitoring, and a user-friendly design. And we're proud to launch our studio with them. Our goal is to bring you educational gems every episode. And with these mics, you can listen to the best quality audio possible wherever you are. To learn more about using Deity mics for your own podcasting, voiceover, or filming needs, go to deitymic.com.
You'll find out who are having the parties. It's Sony, it's Fuji, it's Arri, it's Hawk.
Yeah.
Go up to someone in the booth and start a conversation.
Yeah.
And just start talking with them about the gear, about their company, about their business. Just ask questions. Asking questions is the best way to start out. And everyone at this festival is always open to questions.
Yeah.
So start that out. Just be pleasant and personable. And then, you know, at some point, maybe it's not that conversation. Maybe you come back the next day. Oh, hey, I heard you were having a party. Like, you know, is it possible that I could get on the list for that? They're generally pretty amenable as long as it's not the day of the party, because
the
then
day
they're
of
crushed.
really fucks with you.
Yeah, so start early in the week.
Yeah. Now, okay, let's do a little how-to guide. So Turun, where it's currently set, the 5 venues I listed, maybe I can do it as a quiz for you for fun. Do you know what 5 venues I'm talking about that could be the go-to venues during Turun?
You're talking about where events happen?
Where events happen or where you can find people every night.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the main one is the Jordanki, which is the festival center. It's the main screening room. It's where the seminars are, and it's also where all the vendors are in their market.
Yeah.
I would say that's number 1. Number 2, maybe I'm not going to do it in hierarchical order.
Yeah.
Cinema City is where they do the other screenings, the other main screenings. People don't really hang out there, but you'll queue with people to get into films there. Socially, there's the Tutu bar, which is kind of the default go-to bar for everybody.
What's your drink?
Whatever someone can get me at the bar if it's crowded.
Got it.
But, you know, if you haven't had a Mad Dog, you have to have a Mad Dog.
Okay. How do you define a Mad Dog?
A Mad Dog is the unofficial official shot of Poland.
Yes.
And it has vodka, jam, and Tabasco sauce in it, which sounds like a really weird combination. Jam. It's some kind of like jam or jelly.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that's
what it makes the colors of the Polish flag.
Oh, that's what it's for. Got it. I coined the porn star martini this year as the one everyone should have because it's fucking delicious and has maracuja in it. So it was like really sweet. I made you try it, I think. Yeah. So that's the new thing.
It was the first time I'd ever had one.
Me too. And it's at every bar there.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyway. 4th.
Okay. So 4th would be NRD, which is the after night club.
Yeah.
And then 5th, I'm going to go with a restaurant.
Okay.
And I'm going to say if you're going middle of the morning to middle of the afternoon, Bolka, which is one of the best breakfast restaurants.
It is, yeah.
And then if you're looking for people in the later part of the day, you can go to Jan Obrecht, which is a brewery.
Yes.
Has really good food. Or this year, Dom Sushi was where everybody was at.
Everyone was going to get sushi.
Yeah.
Every LA person was getting sushi in the middle of Poland.
Right. And it's actually pretty good sushi and not bad ramen either.
It's amazing.
So what am I leaving out that you would have put on the list?
Okay. There's 2, I think, being left out. Coffee and Whiskey House. Yes. People were using it as a bar by the end of the week.
Right, which I've never spent time in there other than when we have our party there.
Yeah.
So that is true, though. People were there.
The Tutu pool bar or whatever, whiskey jazz bar, would overflow. And so people would start going there. And then I think the new spot.
Yes.
Credence.
Credence? Credence? Yeah.
Okay.
Credence Clearwater.
Credence.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, that. And there's secret rooms in there.
Yes.
There's a dance floor.
Yes. And there's pizza, which is quite good.
And there's pizza.
Yeah.
That's what I would recommend.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's the only ones that we're missing. Okay. Follow up from Camerimage. What was like the thing this year that is your biggest takeaway?
Biggest takeaway. Wow, that's a great question. This year I was struck by the amount of good seminars that they had, and it really competed with the screenings for me. I went to a lot of seminars that I missed a lot of screenings. But I think my takeaway was just I have to come back every year. Yeah. You know, it's a non-negotiable thing.
Would you go even if work wasn't paying for it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. Wick this year did that. And I love that because it just shows like that it's really for the people.
He's one of those guys that would laugh at our 9 years.
Yeah.
Because he's,
20 maybe?
Over 20, I think.
Yeah, when it was at Woods, which is very cool. Yeah, I think like I keep trying to get more people to go because I just don't think people understand like CFA has been, all about community and networking. And, we have Jack here who is live editing behind the scenes. And I would say that as he smiles with his mustache, I would say that CFA has opened doors for networking for you, right, Jack?
Yeah, majorly.
And that's like one of my joys of starting this company was like bringing Camerimage to LA. And a lot of people in LA will say like, there's networking events all the time. I hate networking events, or how do I find out about them? Because there's so many. But I think a lot of them in LA, and maybe you can attest to this, carry ego with them. If it's not solely educational, or they charge like a premium on that knowledge. And I think something like Camerimage, although far, and although you're like getting away from the place you should be for your career, which is Los Angeles, and you're going to the middle of Poland, I'd say is like I can't say this because it's like doesn't make any sense, but for me it does. So I'm gonna say it because I make no sense sometimes. But like generationally helpful. I don't know what is that like a word? Can I say that? But like,
if you define it, I think you can say it.
I'll coin my term. Yeah. Let's make a CFA coin term thing. We want to do events in 2020. This is my resolution. We want to do events in 2024 that are generationally helpful, meaning they will put you years and decades ahead of where you should be because of the community that you're surrounding yourself with.
Nice.
Does that work? Does that work? Ish. Jack is more.
It sounds like it would be helping your kids.
It will help my kids because if I have children, because I can afford it, because maybe I'll be more successful. Who knows? But here we are in LA broke, but it's fine.
It's so like you're talking about like launching your career through a generation of experience ahead of where it's at right now. It's a bit of a time warp sort of thing.
It is a time warp, and that's how I feel about Camerimage. I feel like stuck in a time warp when I'm there, and then when I come back, I feel like I'm like in the right place. Like I think it really anchors you to figure out if this is what you want to do by going to Camerimage, because you're either excited when you get back, or you're like, I don't know, or you get back and you're like, holy shit, that was a lot. And like what I want to live up to is a lot, because you're meeting DPs who have no ego, who have done this massive $70 million Netflix film or something like that. You're having like drinks with them at the same bar, and this is like speaking from my perspective is, I met some incredible DPs this year who are doing huge stuff like that, and they had that at the festival. And I just see that as like, how much further do I have to go to get there? And if you're afraid of that trajectory or those milestones, then I think it's a good test for you of being like, can I do it? Or like, am I willing to do it?
Right. Yeah. The self-motivation to take those next steps, I mean, for an industry like this it's everything.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's why I like keep trying to get people to go to Poland and to Camerimage, because I'm like, you'll come back and you'll grow with your network. And, we've been friends for the 9 years I've known you, or at least I feel that way. I always feel very excited to see your face. And you don't get that at just going to a networking event in LA.
No, absolutely not. I mean, there's a kind of a crucible element to Camerimage where you're all in this pressure together. Yeah. But it's a very pleasant pressure. It's not like, boot camp or anything.
No.
But in LA, to your point, I feel like there's a lot of people who, one, the A-list people don't come out to networking things.
Correct.
Because it's not a safe, protected environment. I don't mean like physically safe. I mean like you're not gonna be how to say this. The people in Camerimage come with a certain innocence and understanding about who they're talking to. And the networking events in LA, I mean, there's people that come just for the crackers and cheese, you know, or to come and tell their own stories, which is like, all right, you maybe haven't worked in like 20 years, but you know, you're getting a little bored and you want to go out there.
For sure.
But those kind of people don't make the effort to go there. There's this kind of barrier that you have to cross to get there that means you really, really want it. And in LA, there's just no barrier like that.
Yeah, it's either like free entry to something or people are charging like God knows whatever to just go to a 1-hour seminar about lighting, you know?
Right.
And there's no one right way of lighting anyway. So it's like to charge for it is kind of wild to me. But yeah, and so I think that's kind of like the biggest thing I'm always telling people. And so I want CFA to eventually be that, where it feels like whether you're seeing the same people every time or you're building on the networks you have, or you have like a little education sprinkled in there, like the new people come and you like include them in the circle. That's like who we should be growing with in this industry, you know? Yeah. And I think Camerimage really represents that.
Yeah, it does. And it'll be interesting to see how you manage that, you know, that creating sort of a barrier for that,
for sure.
Because they're, you know, financially it's one thing. You don't want to go that route necessarily, but you do need to kind of thin the herd a little bit to get to the people that are really
the core
driven by it.
Absolutely. I want to talk about maybe some like anecdotes or something from Camerimage.
There is a little bit of Las Vegas there where it's like some things, you know.
Totally. I'm trying to think of like the most fun stuff. It's kind of incredible. You can be halfway across the world and know a ton of people in a town you've really never spent time in. Like I went to a kebab shop one night. I'm going to retell the story because we had sound issues, but we went to a kebab shop one night. I couldn't fall asleep. I said goodbye to everyone at like 11 p.m. It was one of the first nights. I walk out the front door 40 feet across, go to a kebab shop. And as I'm walking across, I see like 5 people that I know. And they're all like, where are you going? And I'm like, to get a kebab and go back to bed. Where are you going? They're like, I'm just left the club. And I'm like, okay. And it's just like kind of crazy to be in a world where that exists, because LA is so not that. LA, you could, you know, you break up with someone and you don't see them for 3 years if you don't want to, you know? So you pick your area, you know, but in Poland, it feels like a small town because you know everyone.
To me, it feels like what my university experience was like.
Oh, cool.
Was like, you know, which if you live near campus, you kind of got to know everybody after a couple years. So you'd be walking anywhere, you'd run into half a dozen people at any given time, day or night.
It's so great.
Yeah. I also have a kebab story, but I'm not going to go on that.
What is the kebab story?
All right. So I was walking out of the club one night, the NRD club.
The kebab places are the only things that are open that late. That's why we're talking about kebabs so much. Yeah.
And they stay open late just for the festival.
Yeah.
And so I was walking out of the club with another friend. We walked, you know, a block up the street, ran into Eduardo and Vika, some other friends, had like a moment with them on the square at like 4:30 in the morning, and then kept walking. And I was like, I really wanted a kebab because I hadn't eaten anything in like, you know, 14 hours. And so I left Eduardo and went into the kebab place, and they speak like fair English, like most people in Torun do. Yeah. But I wasn't even like into it. I was just like, I'll have whatever the guy before me had.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, kind of looked at me funny, and I was like, yeah, whatever, you know, just whatever, it's fine. And so I'm there waiting, you know, just waiting, sitting there. And then a couple of people that work at one of the LA rental houses walk in there as well. And they didn't see me. Yeah. And because they just walked right past me. And then I was like, hey, you know, then we had like a little like hangout party, and they were like, we'll have like the same thing that he had. So nobody has seen what this thing is yet, and it comes out, and it's like a 2-foot long kebab.
I saw those things. They're huge.
Yeah, and
they're like literally massive.
Yeah, I mean, it's
and like a girthy
24
thing, you know?
inches of like 3-inch diameter kebab. I was like, oh my god, we all just ordered like a metric half-ton of kebab. Yeah. So it's just make sure you order what you want.
Can you please tell the story without you can spare the details, but can you please tell the story about the gas station?
So the gas station story was last year, going, again, leaving the club late night, hungry again, knowing that I'm going to sleep till like 3 in the afternoon. Yeah. and, you know, completely missed breakfast and all that. So I was like, I need something to eat. And none of the kebab shops were open. So I wanted to go to a gas station. It was the closest place that I could get like some chips or something. So I got a little like, you know, motorized bird scooter.
Whatever,
yeah. And rode it to the gas station, which was
on cobblestone. Yeah.
And then on like busy streets.
In the winter.
At
6 a.m.?
Yeah, like 6 a.m. Like people are going to work. And I went and got like a bag of chips, and I think I got like a hot dog or something. And then on the way back, had an accident on the scooter and like ripped up my jacket, and it's just like, not a smart choice. So don't scooter after the club. That is a firm rule for me now.
On cobblestone too. Wait, but can you tell them what the hot dog thing is?
Yeah. Hot dogs are hilarious. Imagine like a baguette and then take a drill and just drill a hole in from one side, almost all the way through, but not quite. And then you get like a 12 to 14 inch hot dog. And if you want like ketchup or mustard, they just squirt it into the hole and then like cram the hot dog in it. So like 3 inches is sticking out. It is as advertised. Like it's the weirdest thing, but you know, 6 a.m, it'll do.
What's your method of consuming it?
Top down, tip to stem. You don't go from the side. That's like eating a burrito from the side. Like you gotta go one end to the other.
So is it just raw? Like it's just meat for 3 inches?
Yeah, exactly.
Enough. And then you go in and it's majority bread.
And then it's majority bread. That's right. The proportions are completely off.
But does the ketchup and mustard get shoved right into the bottom?
No, actually it's well distributed.
Okay.
That part actually works.
Must be an angle thing.
Well, you squirt it in there. It doesn't get all the way down. The hot dog pushes in this. Is there a parental guideline rating for this?
No. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's amazing. Oh, I love it so much.
Like I consider Camerimage like I'm gonna make a big mistake once during the week, whether it's staying out too late, over consuming, wrecking a scooter. You know, like there's always gonna be that one. I allow myself one big mistake.
I love it. What was your big mistake this year?
My big regret this year was not going to enough screenings.
Got it.
That's the thing that like if I had it to do over again, I would have gone to more screenings.
Yeah.
Although I really enjoyed the seminars I was at. There was a couple that I missed, including Robbie Ryan's Poor Things opening night screening.
Yeah.
Which I made the choice to go to dinner with some folks instead, which was great and very beneficial. But I really wish I had seen that.
Yeah. I haven't actually been to a ton of festivals. I've done TIFF, I've done Camerimage, I've done like some stuff in LA. But how does it compare? How does Camerimage, for those who've been like South by or like Sundance, how does it compare?
It's a completely different experience.
Got it.
I mean, it's almost unrecognizably different in so many ways. You know, South by and Sundance are just spread out in a way with, you know, all this accessibility issues. You know, the process of getting access to screenings, access to parties, it's really more like you're dealing with people that don't really want you there.
Right.
Is kind of my experience.
You mean the townspeople?
No, the townspeople are just happy to take your money anywhere there's a festival, generally. No, it's like the people that are throwing the party. Like, you know, like the parties at Sundance, for example, are the films. The films will throw a party.
Oh.
Well, you know, it's the producers and the agents and things kind of managing it, and they want the A-list celebrities there. They want the big names. And so you come in there with, you know, your scrappy little like filmmaker experience, and they're like just push you to the side.
Wow.
Or you end up standing in line in the cold, you know, trying to like talk your way in through a door
and
person.
It's expensive.
It's also very expensive. Yeah.
From a vendor standpoint, what are the, like, it's not a sales, like you don't want sales. That's not why you're going. You want people to use your stuff, but you don't want sales. That's not the end goal. What do people come and talk to you about?
I mean, they do, when they come to the stand where the products are, they generally come with like some questions about the products.
Got it.
But they're not there to like, as much to like, oh, let's see what these lenses look like and how they perform. Like we have a camera just in case people want to like take a look, and that happens a couple times. But mostly they just have general questions. You know, it's the people that come and ask questions are generally the younger people, younger filmmakers.
Yeah.
So they're not as familiar with our products. They want to kind of get a sense of like, what are your offerings? What do you have? Like, give me the overview. So a lot of these are like kind of overview conversations.
Yeah.
But every now and then you'll get like a big DP that comes by and was like, hey, I really want to like test these. Can you tell me how these like new ones are different from the old ones I know? And then what you're really doing is like setting up an opportunity for that in the future. So like, yeah, once we get back, you know, out of the festival, let's hook up. We'll find a time to test and look at things or connect you with the rental house. But, you know, for me, the goal is really just meeting the next generation of filmmakers and firming up relationships with established filmmakers.
Got it.
I have an anecdote about someone not stealing something.
Okay. It's just remaining in the same place.
No, it
Okay,
was,
go.
it was
Tell
even
me.
all
I
right.
want this.
So this was back when it was in Bydgoszcz.
Okay.
And there was a festival club there as well.
Yeah.
It was like, you know, everybody kind of ends up at the same club. This one was a dance club, as well as they had like some foosball and stuff in the back room.
The one club?
No, it was the one that was above the Savoy.
Oh, the Savoy.
Oh, that second floor club.
I had a VIP pass for that, baby.
Yes. The last night of the festival, which is usually kind of a big blowout.
Yeah.
Myself and a bunch of people ended up at the Savoy late night. And I love foosball, basically any table sport I'm a huge fan of.
Okay.
So I was playing foosball, and I had been carrying a Leica Q camera, digital camera, throughout the festival. And one of the things that we always do is if someone wants to like check it out, like you let them shoot with it, you know,
Yeah.
hand it to them, let them go and take some shots. We do it all the time. And so I was playing, I handed my camera off to somebody, was really into the game. So when they brought it back, I was like, no, like not right now. I'm still playing. Like just hold on to it for a little bit. And at some point finished the game and then just like ran out of the club. Just like bye, see it, took off. Went back to my hotel, packed, slept for like 2 hours, got into a car and was driving back to Berlin. I was the passenger, thankfully. And about an hour into that drive, I realized I never got that camera back. And I don't remember who I gave it to. I've got like zero information other than it happened in the club. And this is not my camera.
This is an expensive camera, too.
It's like a $4,000 camera,
Yeah.
and it belongs to the company. So I sat in the car, feeling not great anyway, and for about a half hour trying to think in my head of like, what am I going to do about this? And finally I was like, you know what? I'm going to email one of the festival organizers just in case this thing shows up. So I emailed Dariush and said, hey man, I left my camera with somebody at the club. I'm not sure what happened, but you know, if it shows up, can you just let me know? And he called me like an hour later and he said, you are so lucky. Someone just walked in and handed me your camera and said that you left it with them at the club last night.
That's
like,
amazing.
He's like, where do you want me to send it to? So he packaged it up and shipped it to the factory.
That's amazing. Where else do you get that? I don't think if you were in the States, that thing would be sitting around waiting for someone to return it to you.
No.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh,
it was really heartwarming. And like that was maybe my like third year there.
Yeah.
And it was like one of those really endearing moments where it's like, this community is so special and unique. Like people really look out for each other.
Yeah. And if I was to budget it out for people who were thinking of going this year, I think I'd probably say, so my room was $35 a night. And it was like a whole apartment with a kitchen, which was great. And that's 8 nights. I think it was like 360 or so for the week, but like under 1,000, I would say you could probably
do
get
the whole
away
festival.
Yeah, except for the flight.
Yeah,
maybe 1,500 with the flight.
Yeah, with a flight, you can do it for like 1,200 and feel very comfortable,
right?
And well taken care of. Yeah,
and then I think you're walking away with, and I know that's maybe a privileged thing to say in this climate because it's like 1,200 isn't a lot, but I think from the perspective of education, if you don't want to go to film school, there's seminars all day, every day from masters in our industry, whether it be lens design, directors, DPs, and manufacturers. And, you know, I think that in itself pays off, because I remember when I started going and you would do the ARRI master classes, you'd learn how to light or work with like crew.
Yeah.
And then I think just like the network. I mean, that's where I work a lot with Kesla. We've done over 30 projects together, and I know them from Camerimage when I was 17, and they were like, if you're ever in LA, like, we'll hook you up, let us know.
Yeah.
And so when I went to AFI, all of my letters were written from people I met at Camerimage. All of my letters for my O1 were written by people I originally met at Camerimage, who were all based in LA. And so it's like my entire life in LA, it can be attributed to who I met at Camerimage the first year and every year after. And that's a pretty incredible thing to invest in yourself for, I think.
I think when you put it in that context, that's absolutely right. It can be amazingly valuable, well beyond the ticket price of entry.
Yeah. So what are some resources people can kind of like follow up on after this discussion about Camerimage? Yeah.
So generally, there's one of the best primers was written by a female cinematographer named Donna Kinski.
Yes.
For American Cinematographer magazine a few years ago. So if you look up Camerimage, American Cinematographer, Kinski, Kinsky, you'll find her kind of overview article. And a lot of that stuff is evergreen. Even though it was in a different town, it really still applies. But look up some of the companies who were there, some of the people that were there, and reach out to them.
Who are the biggest sponsors and things like that, too? Yeah.
Although consider that most of the sponsors are staffing it with their European staff.
Yeah, true.
But you could still, reach out to your local, Sony rep, Arri rep, and just be like, hey, who can I talk to about this?
Yeah.
I think that there's, in the coverage of the events, you'll see, and if you look up the seminars, you'll see who's there. Reach out to people on Instagram. I mean, one of the things I love about this industry is the support for mentorship that it has anyway.
Yeah.
So, never be afraid to reach out to your
All of my
heroes.
mentors came from Camerimage. Even if they live in LA now, they're like Andrei Barkowiak and Alexander Krasinski and everyone from vendor level. Like, they all came from my relationships in Camerimage, which is just kind of like an incredible thing. Like, people join the ASC Vision Mentor Program, or they find specific programs that you have to apply to and you might not get into. Or if you do, it's like only lasts a year, and you get 3 meetings. This is like a really great way of branching out and making sure there's longevity here. It's long term, which I think is wonderful.
Absolutely.
Now, before we wrap things up, I just want to talk about Leitz and your role there. What does a director of communications do?
Well, I can't speak for any other people that have that title. But the way that the title works for me is anything that is customer facing as far as communication, let's say, except social media. So if it's a press release, if it's an article, it's a description of our products, then that passes through me in one way or another. But what I also do is I do an interview series with cinematographers who use our products, and that goes from high end to lower end projects. And wherever there's an interesting story, we do a written interview and we host it on our website. And then there's a bit of a relationship element to it, where when it comes to DPs and rental houses looking for technical and creative support, I'm usually the contact for that in the English speaking parts of the world.
Cool.
Yeah.
And how would you say Leitz Cine exists within the film industry? Like, what are you guys defined by or as with your lenses and what you have to offer people?
Yeah, I mean, we're a lens manufacturer exclusively, carrying the tradition of Leica camera into motion pictures. We've been doing that for 15 years now. So we're
only 15?
Yeah, we're a teenager.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I was terrible at 15. That was my worst age. Definitely. My parents can attest.
I would say we're doing some of our best work at 15.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we have like 7 different lines of prime lenses.
It's wild. You did an
zooms.
incredible shootout over at with Fritz over at Auto.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah, we had like all the products there for people to test. It was really wonderful. But our goal is to design lenses that meet different needs creatively.
Yeah.
Rather than replicating one thing over and over, we're looking at different options for how this can look different from this one, and trying to develop things that give more options other than just formats and size.
What are people excited about right now? The Hugos, right?
Yeah, the Hugos are one of our newest ones.
And what's really exciting about them?
They take Leica's M photography glass and put it in like a proper cinema housing. So you get all like kind of the wonky funkiness of what rehoused photo lenses are, except they're modern lenses. They're currently being manufactured. They have modern coatings, so they're not super flary, but they have a lot of that like field curvature and fall off, and a bit of like the vignetting look. that is really in fashion right now.
What's a good entry-level product? Not entry-level price-wise, but like entry-level, like someone hasn't shot with your lenses before. What would you recommend they test out first?
I mean, it's so project specific because we have so many different looks. You know, if you're looking for something that's cleaner, if it's on budget and you're renting, then probably Summicrons or Summilux, which are Super 35. They've been in the market the longest, so their rental rates are lower.
Which is what I shot with, which were incredible, and I really enjoyed them. So,
and then if you're looking for larger format stuff, the Talias. I mean, the way it works in any rental market is the longer it's been available, the less
easier,
costly.
more accessible, probably. Yeah.
So the newer stuff is, has the premium price on it.
Very cool. Awesome. Seth, thank you so much for joining us. And I can't wait for people to be able to meet you at LA events or at Camerimage. Now, if someone wanted to find you guys, maybe not you specifically or you specifically, if you want to, put that out there. If not, should they just follow your Instagram or what's going on?
Yeah. So, I mean, our website is Leitz-Cine. So that has like product information plus the interviews that I mentioned.
Yeah.
So you can read what other DPs are saying. And we don't write them like, rah, our lenses are the best. Like they're written in like how did they solve the creative and technical solutions? Think more like American cinematographer style. Instagram, Leitz-Cine is a great place to follow in general. I'm Seth Emmons on Instagram, and you can reach out to me directly if you want to. I don't have notifications turned on, so if it takes a couple days, I'm not ignoring you, I promise.
Oh, well, I love Seth, and I know you will too. Well, you do, but because you've listened to this interview and you know that Seth is a chill guy who just likes to eat a hot dog at 6 a.m. Thanks so much for joining us. I'll catch you next time, guys. Bye.
Join us in bridging the gap between talent and crew. Start by subscribing on your preferred podcast platform, sign up for our newsletter to stay up to date on vendor discounts, community events, and new podcast releases, and educate yourself through our free course releases on YouTube. It all starts at cinematographyforactors.com. And if you like this episode, consider leaving a review to make it easier for other listeners to find us.